Everybody doing this evening? Back again with another video for you guys. And tonight what I have for everyone is my versus / comparison video between the Moto X Pure Edition and the Samsung Galaxy S6 Edge Plus. So y'all know how it goes. Let's get into this. Now the first thing I want to talk about with you guys for both devices is the overall build quality and design. Now let's start off with the Moto X Pure Edition. From a build quality and design standpoint, the Moto X Pure Edition is really good. There's no rattling or creaking of any kind, and all the buttons have a nice tactile and clicky feedback to them. It has a nice weight in the hand, and I really like that subtle taper. Alright? Next, when we talk about the Samsung Galaxy S6 Edge Plus, it's more of the same, except for the difference with the S6 Edge Plus is the fact that it has a glass and metal design to it, and it's actually very cool to the touch. But overall, again, the build quality and design on this is very good. There's no rattling or creaking of any kind. All the buttons have a nice tactile and clicky feedback to them. So overall, when it comes to the build quality and design of both devices, I think both companies did a great job. Now you guys may be wondering, which one do I prefer? Seeing as I'm more of a utilitarian, function over fashion type of guy, I would tend to lean more towards the Moto X Pure Edition. The grippy rubber texture and matte finish combined with the I don't know if it's aluminum or painted plastic, but that big beautiful display, this just does it for me. This really does it. It's really solid. Feels good in the hands. Doesn't feel like it's gonna slip out of my hands. Got a nice firm grip on it. It works. Whereas the S6 Edge Plus, it looks beautiful and it's a very eye-catching design, but for me, this is very slippery in the hand, and although I keep a pretty good grip on it and I haven't dropped it yet, it's lacking that confidence when I hold it in my hand. And a downside for me when it comes to the design is the fact that you have these dual edges. So there's always a bunch of false presses, and you know, I'm always doing some stuff I don't intend to do, and I would equate that to these dual edges here. But again, that's just personal preference. When we talk about the build quality and design on both devices, I have to call it a tie. It really comes down to what you prefer. You want that functionalist, utilitarian style, or you want that glass and metal unibody with those curved edges. It's really personal preference. But overall, the build quality and design on both devices is really good. Up next thing I want to talk about with you guys are the displays. Now, let's start off with the S6 Edge Plus. Up front, dead center here on this display, you have a 5.7-inch Quad HD display. I believe it has a screen density of 515. Alright? And really, putting all the numbers aside, y'all know, like I always do, it is a very good display. It gets really bright outdoors. Using it day to day, I've had no issues. No issues whatsoever. You can see as I crank the brightness and throw the camera exposure for a loop, it actually gets really bright. And let me hurry up and turn it down, because staring at it like this, it's only going to be a matter of time before it makes my eyes hurt. So let me go ahead and dial it back down to where I usually keep it. It's a little bit lower. Something like right there. That works. But overall, in terms of display, I would have to say it's a really good display. And again, for those of you who want to see the numbers, there you go. So as I've said, it's a 5.7-inch Quad HD display. That's 1440 by 2560, and it has a screen density of 515. Again, really solid display here. Up next, let's talk about the display on the Moto X Pure Edition. And you're going to get ready to hear more of the same, but just with a different design implementation. You see this is that flat display versus them curves. So right here again, we have a quad 5.7 inch quad HD display right there. And again, when we talk about day-to-day usage, guys, this is a really solid display. Really solid. Let me see something. I was actually trying to pull up something earlier here. Yeah, it got swapped out. Now, just for you guys who want to see the actual numbers there, I know the CPU-Z doesn't really get it right when it comes to the Moto X Pure Edition, so you can see it right there. It's a 5.7 inch quad HD display. That's 1440 by 2560. Let me let that focus. It looks a little out of focus. Yeah, there we go. And right there you can see it has a screen density of 520. But putting the numbers aside, again, this really is a really good display, guys. Using it outdoors on a day-to-day basis, it just works. I've had no issues with this display, and I've had this device for a really long time with no issues when it comes to the display and day-to-day usage. That being said, ooh, it's kind of giving me a headache. Let me dial that down. Too low. There we go. So, in terms of displays on both devices, I will again say I'd have to call it a tie, because really, regardless of which device you pick up when it comes to displays, you should have a really good experience with either display, guys. So in terms of display, I'm going to have to call it a tie on this one. Now, up next, let's talk about the hardware and software on each device. Let's start with the Moto X Pure Edition this time. Now, hardware-wise, internally, the Moto X Pure Edition is running a Snapdragon 808 processor and an Adreno 418 GPU. It has 3 gigs of RAM and 16 gigs of onboard storage with microSD card expansion. In particular, this one has the ability to make your internal storage the primary storage. I mean, your SD card storage, the internal storage. So that's really nice. So you have adaptable storage on this one, which is really nice. Other things, it has a 3000 milliamp hour battery. On the rear, it has a 21 megapixel camera, which is capable of shooting 4K videos at 30 frames a second and 1080p slow motion at 120 frames. Switching to the front, again, we have a 5.7 inch quad HD display. We have a front-facing 5 megapixel camera with LED flash, and as you can see, we have the dual front-firing speakers. Yes, this is what I'm talking about. Yes. Now, in terms of the front-facing camera, you can record 1080p video, and you could do 720p slow motion. Really solid. Now, when we talk about the software, really solid software. And you know, in terms of manufacturers, I tend to prefer Motorola's approach to Android, because it really is just the stock Android experience with Motorola's little custom features thrown in. So you got your gestures to launch the camera, you got your chop for the flashlight, you have all that good stuff here, and you can do your Moto voice, so you can set up a custom phrase to interact with the device without even touching it. So other than that, you have stock Android 6.0 Marshmallow, and in terms of the fluidity, I would have to say that this is a very fluid device. And with day-to-day usage, I've had no issues. With, and y'all already know what I'm going to say, with the occasional app slowdown, with a bunch of apps open in the background, you will get that occasional app slowdown when you have a bunch of apps open. Other than that, I would have to say it's been a very enjoyable experience, and I've ran into no other issues except for one other issue with the Bluetooth, but we're going to get to that when we get to the Bluetooth section. Alright, so solid software, solid hardware when it comes to the Moto device. Now, moving on, let's talk about the hardware and software in the Samsung Galaxy S6 Edge Plus. Henceforth, the S6 Edge Plus, because that's a mouthful right there. Hardware-wise, internally, this guy is running a Exynos 7420 octa-core processor and a Mali T720, or was it 740? Not quite sure. This guy has 4 gigs of RAM and 32 gigs of onboard storage without microSD card expansion. So what you get is what you get. Now this guy comes in 2 different storage solutions for this model. You get 32 gigs and 64 gigs. So if you do a ton of stuff, you're going to want to lean towards the more higher storage model. Other things, this guy has a 3000 milliamp hour battery. It has a 16 megapixel camera on the back with LED flash and a heart rate sensor. It can record 4K videos at 30 frames a second and do 720p slow motion at 120 frames, along with a bunch of other stuff. Flipping it around, up front, dead center here, as I've said, we have a 5.7 inch Quad HD curved display with a front-facing 5 megapixel camera, which is capable of 1080p video recording, 2K video recording, and so on and so forth. Then we have up top, we have our proximity and light sensors and our LED notification light. At the bottom, we have our home button / fingerprint sensor with our 2 capacitive keys, which is back and recent apps. Okay? Now, other things. When we talk about the software on this guy is running Android 7.0 Nougat. So you can see a big difference there. This is running 6.0 Marshmallow, and this is running 7.0 Nougat, with all of the Nougat features with Samsung TouchWiz on top. This one has Motorola's experience with just a few custom features. This one has the kitchen sink, so you have all of the Samsung features. You have a heavy theme engine. You got a bunch of battery saving modes. You got a bunch of tweaks on this one on top of 7.0 Nougat. That being said, when we put all that stuff to the side and we talk about the software, it's still, this guy running TouchWiz is still an enjoyable experience. Now, there is a bunch of app slowdown and the occasional hiccups. The hiccup part, that's just to be expected with TouchWiz devices. You're eventually going to run into that TouchWiz lag. The occasional app slowdown, that just comes when you have a bunch of apps open in the background. It is what it is. And again, that is a bummer considering the type of specs you have under the hood. I mean, 4 gigs of RAM should be more than enough, and 32 gigs of onboard storage, it should do the trick. But it should be a very, very smooth and seamless experience considering that everything in this device was built in-house. This has Samsung's Exynos processor, which is an in-house built processor, so everything should be tweaked and optimized to the max. So the fact that you run into that occasional lag and have those hiccups, you know, it's sad to see. But that being said, it does not take away from the overall user experience. I just wanted y'all to get y'all prepared because it will happen. It happens on all Samsung devices, even the newest ones, even the S8, S8 Plus. You're gonna run into that Samsung lag. Oh, wait for it. Oh, wait for it. You're gonna see it. You're gonna feel it. It's gonna happen. But other than that, it is a very smooth and seamless experience. Just be prepared for that lag that's coming. So, yeah. Alright, so you guys may be wondering, in terms of hardware and software, who won what? Now, putting all the specs and all the internals aside, we're going to call the hardware portion a tie, because both of these devices run beautifully. They just have their occasional moments where they want to hiccup and slow down on you. But other than that, the internals on these guys are pretty good. Now, in terms of software, you guys may be wondering, well, who wins? Yes, Samsung has the edge when it comes to features, and it's ahead when we're talking about Android versions. But in my experience, I would have to lean more towards the Moto device. It's just cleaner, it has less, and less is more in some cases. And I think Samsung really needs to use that philosophy. Samsung, less is more. Learn it, live it, love it. But other than that, taking my personal preference aside, I'd have to give the Moto device the slight edge when it comes to the software. So, what was that breakdown again? Hardware-wise, we have a tie. Software-wise, I have to give the slight edge to the Moto device. Alright, let's keep it moving. Up next, I just want to talk to you guys about the Wi-Fi in these guys. Now, this is pretty much the same story across the board, but you know we're going to pull it up so we can talk about it. See, this is what I'm talking about. You click on it, take a little minute to open up. Now, Wi-Fi wise, yeah, I think that's what we're calling it. Yeah, up next, Wi-Fi. When it comes to the Wi-Fi, both of these guys have Wi-Fi 802.11b GNN and AC. What does that mean? That means they both have the ability to take advantage of the 2.4 gigahertz band and the 5 gigahertz band wherever applicable. Now, I'm going to just tell y'all straight out. In terms of day-to-day usage, I've had no issues when it comes to the Wi-Fi on either of these devices. But what you will see is there is a big data discrepancy when we talk about both of these devices. You can see, now I ran both of these on T-Mobile, but you can see in terms of numbers, it runs a little bit better on the Moto X Pure Edition. But putting the numbers aside, both of these guys run beautifully in terms of Wi-Fi and mobile data. You're not going to have any issues with these guys. Now, up next, let me just open up a quick YouTube video for you guys so y'all can see the Wi-Fi in real time. Alright, let me see what we're working with here. Hold on. Thought I pulled up the video here already, but let me pull it back up. Find something new for you guys. And this will also double as a speaker test. So let me go ahead and max this guy out. Blue Wednesday sounds good. Let's go with that one. Let that commercial play. And while it's playing, we're going to pull up the video here. Pause this. And let's make sure they're the same. Okay. Boom. Alright. Oop. Pulled up the wrong one over here. Sorry, guys. Here we go. Bam. Alright, now let me max out the volumes. And this way y'all can hear for yourselves. Alright, now, who is going first? Let's start off with the Moto X Pure Edition here. 100% volume. Enjoy, guys. Now, I didn't turn it off again? Why do I always forget to turn that off? I don't know. I guess I'm used to using it in portrait. Anyway, here we go, guys. Alright, so real quick Wi-Fi test there. Here we go. Alright. S6 Edge Plus. Let's do this. Oops. Didn't mean to do that. 100% volume. See, that's the struggles, man. There's nothing to grab onto with those curved edges. Nothing to grab onto. Alright, so real quick Wi-Fi test for you guys. Now, you guys may be wondering, in terms of speakers, when it comes to media performance, who won? This one goes without a doubt. The Moto X wins hands down. It's not even a contest. You got dual front firing speakers here coming right at you. They get nice, crisp, clear, and loud. And man, you can feel it. Got some oomph to it. Whereas the Samsung speaker gets loud and it's very crisp and clear, but there's a little bit of distortion on max volumes, and it does lose again, considering that it's one down firing speaker there. So in terms of speakers for media consumption, gonna have to give that to the Moto X Pure Edition. Now let's keep it moving. Up next thing I want to talk to you guys about is the LTE support in both of these devices. Now, y'all already know who's going to take the W in this department, but let's run through it anyways. Now, the Samsung devices come in multiple different models for the different carriers. But if you pick up the unlocked version of this guy, which is gonna run you a little bit more, you should have band support for pretty much any GSM carrier in the United States and abroad. Okay. That being said, if you want to know more information, please check out my links to the full review of each of these devices if you want to know those specific bands. Now, why does the Moto X Pure Edition win in the band support? Because the Moto X Pure Edition has bands for every major carrier in the United States and abroad. Okay? Has all the LTE bands for all major carriers in the United States and abroad. So what does that mean? It'll work on Sprint, T-Mobile, Verizon, Metro PCS, AT&T, Cricket, you name it. It'll work on it. It's very plug and play. You just drop the SIM in and you're good to go. No messing with APNs, no none of that stuff. Now, the S6 Edge Plus is similar, but that's only because this is a Verizon model. So you get a little bit more bands, but in some cases, you may have to tinker around with APN settings. That is why the Moto X Pure Edition wins the LTE coverage portion hands down. It's plug and play, no muss, no fuss. Drop your SIM in and you're ready to go. It's just that easy. Now, let's keep it moving. Up next, I want to talk to you guys about the Bluetooth in these guys. Now, just gonna go ahead and get this one out the way. The Bluetooth in the Moto X Pure Edition is horrible. It has Bluetooth 4.1 technology in it, and I don't know, there must be some type of Bluetooth bug in the Moto X Pure Edition, because sometimes it doesn't register when I've disconnected a Bluetooth device, so it doesn't engage the external speakers. And then I have to toggle on and off the Bluetooth, or restart the device, or put the device into airplane mode, wait a couple seconds, and then turn airplane mode off. But when the Bluetooth works, it works how it's supposed to, when it decides to work. That being said, the Samsung Galaxy S6 Edge Plus has Bluetooth 4.1 technology in it. And this guy's Bluetooth just works. I've had no issues in terms of the Bluetooth on this Samsung device. No issues whatsoever. So when it comes to Bluetooth, the S6 Edge Plus is going to win this no contest style. No contest. Straight knockout, one punch, it's over, it's a wrap. The S6 Edge Plus takes the Bluetooth hands down. Now, let's keep it moving. Now let's talk about the GPS support in these guys. And really, when it comes to GPS, guys, both of these devices are phenomenal. I was easily able to do turn-by-turn navigation and things of that nature with no problems. No problems whatsoever. The GPS locked on and it just works. No muss, no fuss, it just works. So if you're picking up these devices and you're very GPS dependent like myself, or you're not directional savvy like myself, then you're not going to have any problems with either of these devices, guys. So in terms of Bluetooth, I'd have to say it's a tie in this department. Now let's keep it moving. Now, up next thing I want to talk about with you guys is the receiver call quality and the speaker call quality. Now, again, again, I'm going to have to handily give this one to the S6 Edge Plus. Now, in terms of receiver call quality, it's a tie. Both of these guys get very loud, crisp, and clear, and taking calls via the built-in receiver was not an issue. Where they differ, however, is with the speaker call quality. Now, this one gets loud, but I find myself wishing that the speaker on the Moto X Pure Edition, at least when it comes to speaker calls, this gets a tad bit louder. Whereas I did not have that problem when we talk about the S6 Edge Plus. It gets really loud and stays very clear, and I've had no issues with it when it comes to the speaker call quality. The same can be said of the Moto X Pure Edition speaker call quality, but it just doesn't get as loud in my opinion. So it's a tie for the call quality on the built-in receivers, and the S6 Edge Plus takes it for the speaker calls. Up next, let's keep it moving. We're moving along. Let's talk about the cameras and the camera interfaces of these guys here. Now, hands down, I'm going to have to give this to the Moto X Pure Edition, and let me explain. Now, before we talk about the camera interface, let's just go over the ways you could do this. Now, you have your on-screen shortcut from the lock screen. You can see that you can swipe in, or you can do your twist gesture, and you're into the camera. All right, it's that easy. Similarly, on the Samsung device, you have more of the same. So you could swipe in from the lock screen, swipe up, and you're in, or turn it off. Quick double press of the home button there is going to launch the camera. Okay, didn't register that time. But real quick double press pretty much works almost every time. Drop you into the camera just that quick. So both of these guys have their custom launch into the cameras, and it is very seamless and very quick. Now, the reason why I said the Moto X Pure Edition wins in the camera interface department is because it's very quick to launch, it's very simple and straightforward, everything is very easy, it's real quick to use, and hey, you can pick it up and just start snapping, no problem. So the learning curve on this guy is very, very slight. Pretty much anybody can pick this guy up and you're going to get a good photo 9 times out of 10. Okay, and again, remember, you have a 21 megapixel camera on the rear and you have a 5 megapixel camera on the front. Alright, now, similarly, the Samsung interface is just as good. but there's a little bit more of a learning curve on this one. See, there's no tap the screen to take a picture. You got to tap the shutter button to get into your modes. You got to swipe this way and then touch your modes. You know, there's just a little bit more in here, so it's going to take a lot more steps. You know what I'm saying? But other than that, if you can get around this, it's going to be pretty good. Now, I activated something by mistake. But that being said, again, I got to give the camera interface department to the Moto X Pure Edition simply because it's easier to use and the learning curve on it is that much easier. Whereas there's going to be a little bit of a learning curve for the Samsung device. But that being said, when we talk about photo and video quality, I'm going to have to call it a tie. Both of these phones take really good video and really good photos, and 9 times out of 10, you're going to take the video you want on the very first try, or you're going to snap that photo that you're looking for on the very first try. Now, yes, you guys are saying, well, the Samsung technically has the better camera with the focus pixels and all that stuff. You know, you get the punchier photos, all that stuff. We're going to put all that stuff to the side, and we're just going to judge these photo for photo, camera for camera, and doing it like that, based on my opinion, I have to call it a tie. As I've said, 9 times out of 10, you're going to get the photo that you want with either of these devices, and 9 times out of 10, you're going to be able to take some really crisp video with either of these devices. So, from that aspect, I would have to say it's a tie when we talk about the photo and video quality. Keep in mind, guys, this is just my opinion. You guys are welcome to your opinions as well. Everybody's opinion is different. So, moving on. Now that we've moved past the cameras, this would be where I talk about the gaming and the gaming performance. And really, this is a tie across the board. Really, these two devices are going to handle any games that you throw at it, hands down. They're going to eat them for breakfast and come back asking for more. Any game. Now, I'm a casual user, so you know the type of stuff that I've tested on this. Asphalt 8, Fruit Ninja, CSR Racing, and it ran without issue. Okay? So, if you're a casual user like myself, regardless of which device you pick up, you're not going to have any problems when it comes